Okay.
Right.
Hi everyone, it's Sbu here from doingcoaching.com. So today I have one of our clients, Rich PC. So Rich is gonna be here with us to share um his story and her coaching journey so far. So he's got some very interesting story with his coaching journey that he would like to share with us. So Richie, welcome to this interview, and thanks so much for taking your time and agreeing to have this chat with us. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what coaching, what kind of coaching you do, and what you're all about.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Spirit. It's so great to be here. Yeah, coaching. So I do recovery coaching. So essentially, that encapsulates any experience of the person where they're wanting to recover a sense of themselves, or they're wanting to recover their lives back to a sense of normality, or a sense of they just feel like they've lost touch with the sort of, you could call it the status quo, I guess, for them, or things have just gotten a bit off kilter for them. And that can come from so many different backgrounds. It can come from an emotional recovery point of view. It can come from a traumatic incident point of view. It can come from substance addiction. It can come from personal crisis. It can sort of come from the full spectrum and the full scope of just somebody wanting to recover themselves back to the point where they're functioning in their lives the way that they want to be functioning. And that's really what I'm interested in, and that's where I come in, and we work on just everything that's currently blocking the person from being able to recover their lives back to that point. And yeah, it's the process so far has proved to be really, really exciting and yielding some really, really good results. And I'm just, to me, it's such a privilege to be just a companion for somebody on their recovery journey, no matter what that recovery journey is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that the thing that I'm most excited about is just like sort of getting the data and getting the feedback that this process might not be the sort of traditional model of recovery, but it's working, and people subjectively feel like it's working for them. And I feel like that's what's important. From my perspective, that's what's important, when the person feels like, hang on, this process is actually working, and I'm getting my life back, in simple
Mm-hmm.
terms.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just excited about it. I'm passionate about it and super excited about it. So yeah, that's my story.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, coaching is very rewarding and fulfilling for sure. So I can definitely feel that, and I can testify on that, having been doing it for a few years myself. Um, and yeah, that's quite an interesting area of coaching that you focuses on, recovery, any kind of recovery, even personal crisis. Must be very interesting because before I actually work with you, I have never had anybody working in that kind of recovery, and it was quite interesting for me as well personally. Um, where like people usually get help with recovery, but to actually help them integrate to get back their life is never something that is talked about.
Mm, mm.
Um, yeah. So, what made you want to focus on this particular coaching? Because it's not something that has been talked about. It was new for me, and surely it's new for a lot of people as well.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I guess what made me want to get into it is my own personal story with recovery.
Mm-hmm.
During the COVID times, I went through quite a bad depression. I went to a recovery wellness center to get
Mm-hmm.
help with that, and I was sort of introduced to a model of recovery that was blended with, traditional psychology, but also more on the coaching side of things and an alternative approach. And once I was introduced to this, and once I sort of had the realizations for myself that this process is working for me, then I knew in that moment, I just want to work with people on this level, because I knew for a long time, probably since I was a young kid, that I wanted to work with people. I just didn't know in what capacity. I didn't know, I didn't know what my skill sets were really to be able to effectively work with people. And then when I went through my own recovery process, then that was sort of the catalyst that just sparked, like, okay, I just want to work with people on this level, and I want to help them through this process. So when I first started out, it was kind of like I just wanted to help the kind of people that were in my position. But then I quickly realized that people came into recovery from so many different backgrounds and so many different stories and so many different like avenues. But essentially, a lot of the time, essentially they were saying the same things, So whether that was like a physical recovery or a purely emotional recovery or even a spiritual recovery, or like that, it's almost like I realized like that the entry point at which people came into recovery didn't really matter as much as like what they were saying about it. They were saying they were sort of expressing the same desires, and so I realized, okay, like I can work with people on the full spectrum of like recovery, because essentially it boils down to a lot of the same things. And that in the recovery world, it's kind of like the pillars almost are the same. So for me, every type of recovery has an emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual component. So that's sort of, opening things up on that level has allowed me to say, okay, cool, I can work on the full spectrum of people's journeys. And yeah, I just think it's a case of like, I'm just really excited about coming into the recovery world from an alternative approach, because I think again, like I'm quite, like I like to be data oriented, and for me the data is suggesting that traditional models of recovery and traditional rehabs and things like that, and they have their place for sure, but the question remains, like, are they working? And it's like, well, when your recovery chances are 2 to 5% in a traditional model, then I'm kind of looking at that going like, we need to be doing things differently. And yeah, that's where I come in, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. It sounds like it's based more on your own personal transformation or on your own journey during the recovery. That sounds like that's what led you to pursue this coaching, but also obviously your own observations and your research and what you were seeing, but having actually see how it helped you and what worked with you, that's what led you to wanting to pursue coaching. Obviously, well, as you said, it was a child dream that you had, but you just didn't know how would you help people until that time. Wow, well, that's really interesting. So would you say then that if someone wants to help people and change people's life, coaching would be one way of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think any level and any niche you can come in on that's different from what's being done out there is like, if coaching gives you the avenue to do that, then definitely.
Yeah. And also, because in your case, you are someone who has have experience, like what led you to coaching was your own personal transformation in your own chain. So would you say that someone who has experienced a certain transformation that they've helped them then perhaps that could be the foundation of them getting into coaching and also help other people achieve, sort of like achieve that transformation that they themselves have experienced, or they themselves have sort of like managed to achieve through their own journey. Will still that be the basis and the foundation of someone getting into coaching, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a basis and it's a foundation, but it doesn't have to be the only one. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of different there's a lot of different types of personal transformations, and there's a lot of different catalysts that can lead to it. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
think somebody having gone through like their own like recovery process is necessarily the only foundation. I basically just think it's like, there's a lot of people out there who just wanting to change their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and plugging into a lot of different avenues to do it. And I think what's important is like, the important thing is that the person who becomes the coach has gone through their own like paradigm shift. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they were living a certain way, it wasn't working for them. They tried some tools and stuff that they found along the way, and then it resulted in like a paradigm shift, and that paradigm shift has allowed them to live life in a better way that's getting better results for them. you
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
and then I think people can use that to say, okay, like, I want to coach people through a similar paradigm shift,
Yeah.
because if that makes sense, because and
Yeah.
there's so many different ways you can achieve that. For me,
Mm-hmm.
the achievement of it was, on from like a depression to
Yeah.
a joyful gratitude based state. That was sort of my paradigm shift, but it's not the only one.
Yeah, of
There-
course.
there's
Yeah.
there's millions of different ways to do it. I just think it's important that the person who's coaching has that foundation of like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
there was some stuff that wasn't working for me in my life, and then I sort of got rid of that, and then I tried some different stuff, and the paradigm shift happened,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm like anchored in a different way of being. Then you can coach someone through that, because
Yeah.
a lot of the time, what I find in the, specific to the recovery coaching is, you introduce a paradigm shift to someone and it can change their whole life. Just like
Yeah.
the way they look
Mm-hmm.
at the world, the way they see the world, the way they feel about the world, and show up in the world. When you can shift that whole paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
it's like anything's possible, basically. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think that
awesome.
kind of answers your
Mm.
question in a roundabout
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it does. And I absolutely agree. And part of that, that's why we have doingcoaching.com, because I think you put it nicely when you say like someone who is going through a paradigm shift. So it is transformational, obvious experiences if they've tried everything, but then they figure out this one thing that has worked for them. And then now feel like maybe actually I could help more people, but because they've discovered I've tried this for so many, you know, for a certain period of time, but it hasn't worked for me. But
Mm.
try something and it's really changed their life. And then suddenly feel like, you know what, I've always wanted to help people, and maybe this is one thing I can help them with as well. I could be interested because I found help from. Yeah, absolutely agree. And one part of the ways that we want to help more people to do that so that they can really make this world a better place is allowing people using that journey and that paradigm shift to help other people with through coaching and doing coaching.com. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And so like since you've been obviously now finally doing your childhood calling, or if you say calling or dream of wanting to help people now that you. So how has been things for you? Like, how has coaching like how has life uh, been like for you? How have you been feeling now doing coaching and helping other people?
Yeah, it's been a really, really interesting journey. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think the journey has been sort of like one of one that went from pure excitement, like
Mm-hmm.
into pure overwhelm in the beginning, because I
Right.
just sort of threw myself out there and it's like, okay, cool, gonna be a gonna be a coach. I'm gonna help the whole world, like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
mentality, and then realizing quickly that I just sort of got lost in the yeah, just lost in the overwhelm of not knowing necessarily what my niche was, and not
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to put myself out there in an effective way. And then, so I went from pure excitement to pure overwhelm. And then, that's when I found you and doing coaching. And, since I've been plugging into the doingcoaching.com program, everything has improved on a drastic level. Um, just sort of going back to the foundations of answering the questions of why am I doing this? Who do I really intend to serve, and how do I intend to serve them, and how can I help them most effectively? Just answering the foundational questions has been, again, the data suggests
Mm-hmm.
whatever's happening in the doingcoaching.com program, and whatever the process is that I've been through with revisiting those foundations, and sort of just getting my ducks in a row type of thing, it's working. And
Yeah.
that just makes me so excited, because it's given me the avenue to be able to serve the kind of people that I want to serve in the way that I want to serve them, and in the way that helps them most effectively.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's just opened up that channel, that avenue, that doorway for me, and really got me to focus on just that. And
Mm-hmm.
now, getting clients and helping them through recovery processes is like, oh, it just makes me so happy. And I'm just, again, it's just like, it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's a joy to be doing this kind of work. And yeah, finding doingcoaching.com, and your program has been instrumental in allowing that to unfold for me. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
so happy to be on this path now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely feel that because yeah, there's nothing as much fulfilling as changing someone's life and really making an impact and really help them. It just gives you that feeling, and because obviously the first and foremost thing that we get to coaching for is genuinely wanting to change other people's life. It's genuine, like you said, and you knew that you wanted to help people, but you just didn't know how. But now you just find out with coaching, and now you're doing exactly what you always wanted. So yeah, this is just that feeling of fulfillment and having contributed to someone's life and changing and making a great impact. So yeah, I could testify that on that feeling myself. So yeah, as I did mention earlier that you are one of our clients here at doingcoaching.com, and you did obviously enroll with us in our doingcoaching.com program to help you obviously build a coaching business so that you can reach more people and help more people and make this world a better place with the coaching, which is exactly what you're doing. So just to touch on doingcoaching.com program, so how did you find the program itself? Like, what was your experience with it, and what would you tell someone about it, really?
Sure. I mean, my experience with the program has been so good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it just sort of, I think I've put it to you this way before, that
Mm-hmm.
my experience with the program is that every single question that I've ever had about coaching and starting a coaching business has been answered in the program.
Wow. Uh-huh.
Like every question. I've never had to write down a list of additional questions, or
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I need to know more about this, or, it's always just been like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking about. And then it's answered in the program. So,
Mm-hmm.
So I think the program is really, really succinct, really, really detail oriented, very well laid out, very logical in terms of getting you to think about coaching as a business and how to start it. Because essentially, that's something that I had to be reminded of. Like, and I think a lot of coaches are, the intention is, like you say, to go out and make a difference in the world. But in the beginning, maybe not necessarily thinking about that from a business perspective. And then, the program just got my mindset and my mind frame into like the most effective way for me to make a difference in the world is to approach what I'm doing as a business. And just learning the foundations of that. And I'm still going through the program, and I've revisited some modules that I needed to get a better foundational like understanding of, that made the biggest difference for me in the end. And I think what I would say to somebody going into the program is just do it in the order that it's laid out, because if you do it that way, everything is everything is going to unfold for you. The way I've explained it to other people is that also the way the modules are laid out is in such a way that it meets you like exactly where you are at in the stage of your business. So like doing the foundational modules at the foundational stage of your business, and then not accelerating, not feeling like you have to accelerate through the program, because you might actually be getting ahead of yourself in terms of where you're at with your actual business. So just doing the modules like at a gradual, patient pace as to where you're at in your business will, for me, it's made the biggest difference, because just allowing myself to, it's essentially come down to like allowing myself to be in that foundational phase, and to know, okay, right now I'm working on my foundations, but there's an end result, there's an end goal in mind. It's not just like guesswork, it's like very, very specific in terms of like doing this so that it can result in this. And then, my advice for people getting into it would be to trust that, just to trust that, because for me, the results are now yielding like down the line, and I can say without a doubt, it's because I worked on those foundational elements, and I did that module twice, and I, like it's because I worked on those foundational elements with you at that specific phase, and it was right for me then, and it's like serving its purpose now, where like my business is built on the bedrock of solid foundations, and it's like, yeah, that's all thanks to the program. And yeah, it's I think, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it did. Awesome, man. Thanks for that. So would you recommend the doing coaching program to anyone who's starting out the coaching business, or anyone who wants to get into coaching?
Absolutely. And yeah, I wouldn't just recommend it to anyone, I'd recommend it to everyone. It's yeah, as far as I can tell, it's the most succinct, most comprehensive program on starting a coaching business that's out there. And I think one thing that was part of my journey before coming to doing coaching was plugging into some other coaches' material on like what you need to be doing to start a coaching business, but none of it covered the foundational aspects. None of what I found out there. Everything else covered the straight into the marketing, straight into the messaging, that kind of stuff, sales speak and that kind of stuff, and none of it sort of stuck and landed with me. And then I realized now, after doing coaching.com program, it's because it was missing the foundational elements, you know, and I think that's something the doingcoaching.com program does so well. And it sets it apart from other programs. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Awesome. Um, and what would you say to someone who's in a program, but they say that they they haven't really get any progress? What would you say to that person? Mm.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I would say, well, firstly, just based on my own experience, I would say revisit module one because,
Mm.
um, you know, because when you can work on your foundations specifically with intention, with knowing that you're working on your foundations specifically so that you can achieve the kind of results that you want to achieve, and then you
Mhm.
just give yourself, it's kind of like giving yourself a grace period of like, give yourself the grace period of enough time to work on those foundations so that you don't have to be revisiting them later on down the line. So you do it properly the first time, and then, or the second time in
Mhm.
my case. And then the other thing I would say is what I learned is not to base my my effort on like whether or not I was getting results.
Mhm.
Like, so like in the beginning, and essentially it boils down to like, well, I don't think that paying clients is an accurate measure of results in the beginning phases, you know.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like, you know, it comes down to like, I think we had some discussions about this. It comes down to like, well, everyone around you is saying like, oh, you've started a coaching business, so like, you know, have you got any paying clients yet? And it's
Mhm.
kind of like, well, that's not the accurate measure of progress in the beginning.
Mhm.
You know, the accurate measure of progress for me is, now that I have perspective on it, and what I would say to people who are stuck on their progress is reframe your accurate measure of what progress is, because progress is like making connections with people. Progress is like, you know, working on your foundational messaging. That's progress. Progress is like, and then once you're at the stage that you're ready for paying clients, and like, you know, got those foundations in place, then you can shift your measure of progress again to say, okay, now I know that going through, like having been through this, now I know that my coaching business is working when I'm getting paying clients. But just because that's not the case in the beginning doesn't mean that you're not making progress.
Mhm.
That's,
Mm, well, yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's really good advice. Yeah, that's really good for advice. Because sometimes, like people, they don't really measure progress right way. Because it's impossible that when you just come in, like, and then you can start to have clients right away without having a proper foundation. It just never works like that.
yeah,
Um, like you said, that's why sometimes people they go straight to some of these programs, go straight to messaging and stuff. But without proper foundation and really who you are and what kind of coaching you want to do, then it's going to be a mission to get it all working. And that's what I always say that to people. And what would you say to people who are on the fence in joining the program and working with us here doing coaching.com? They're thinking about it, but they're still on the fence.
mm. I would probably just say you're not going to find a better program out there.
Mhm.
Um, you know, so save yourself time and effort and just
Yeah.
plug into this program because, you know, and I think it's something that we discussed as well at some point, but like, even if you just do the foundational aspects,
Mhm.
it's still going to make a big difference for you in your coaching business.
Yeah.
So just do it, like honestly, just do it purely for knowing that that all the bases have been covered in this program,
Mhm.
um, and that, you know, that's the most valuable thing you can ask for, because for people on the fence, they're probably already like plugging into some content from other coaches and stuff, and that content's valuable at certain phases and stuff, but it might not meet them necessarily where they are. And I
Yeah.
think that doing coaching program just meets you where you're at specifically in your coaching
Mhm.
journey, and that's like the most valuable thing. So yeah, just do it for that aspect, I'd say.
Awesome. And so what have been your experience now with your coaching, where you are with things? So just share with us where you are, and that has the program helped you achieve to sort of like help you get your coaching business where it is now. Just share with people where your coaching business is at the moment.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, so my coaching business has gone from struggling to attract any paying clients to attracting some consistent paying clients. And, you know, um, where I'm at specifically as a coach on my coaching journey is pretty much to the point where I'm like, I'm just super clear on my messaging of how I explain to people what I do and how I can help them. And
Mhm.
so that's making the biggest difference for me in terms of like, for example, getting me to think about the user experience on my own website and whether or not it's clear to people like what do I do? How can I help them? How can coaching help them? And how specifically can my coaching help them? That's helped me convert some paying clients,
Mhm.
and that's all thanks to the program and getting me to think about that messaging. And it's also like to the point where I know when I get on a call with somebody, I know that I'll be able to explain to them what I do and how I can
Mhm.
help them.
Mhm.
And it's like that to me is the most invaluable thing ever, because uh I'm not thinking about things from like a purely sales perspective.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm thinking of things from like, what kind of solution do I provide to this person's problem? And I'm like, in my coaching, I'm now to the point where I'm relatively confident about that.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that's making the difference with like, all my communication, whether it's over messaging or email or calls or on my
Mhm.
website, or, it's making the biggest difference for me in terms of like just being able to relay to people, okay, this is upfront the solution that I provide. And that's
Mhm.
where I'm at in my coaching, is that is helping me to convert um, potential people into clients.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, and tell us about your experience with the clients that you're working with. How has that been like? I think you did mention you did share this with me that one of your clients has been going for therapy for years, but through working with you after I think couple of weeks, then you were able to make that impact and really help this client. So just share with us your experience having working with us general and of the impact that your coaching has been having on people.
yeah, I mean, the feedback has been phenomenal. It's been with the tools that I'm using, some people have said that they've resolved um, issues that they've been hanging on to for years within like one or two sessions. Um,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
another another person that I was telling you about said, they've been in therapy for 10 years and they've
Mm-hmm.
never felt the kind of benefits that they felt within 2 weeks of working with me. So, and that's sort of like the level that I want to be working at. I want to
Mm-hmm.
be providing a different approach. I want to be providing a holistic approach that's alternative and different to what's being offered out there. And, you
Mm-hmm.
know, obviously I can never guarantee things, but I
Yeah, of
do
course. Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
do confidently say to people like, this is going to be different to what you've experienced before. And I think people are responding to that, and they're finding it refreshing. They're finding it, and just that in itself often has, healing power. It's like,
Yeah.
is like this is not the traditional stuff that's being offered out there, and people
Yeah.
like sort of inadvertently realize that that's what they've been looking for, and then they find me through that avenue, and then we work together on that level, and then they start to experience the difference. And you know, again, I just go back to the data thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm collecting feedback on how people have started their process, how they've been feeling,
Yeah.
how they progressing as they're going through their process, and I'm collecting the data and reviewing that quite seriously. And the data is suggesting that it's working. People
Mm-hmm.
are experiencing shifts and paradigm shifts and emotional shifts and physical healing and all sorts of things in a relatively short space of time. So
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, so it's working, and it's just so fun and so great to be involved in, and yeah, it just makes me so happy. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And how is it making you feel, making seeing this impact that your work is making to people's lives? Yeah, that was just what I was about to ask you. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, in simple terms, it just makes me feel I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing at exactly the right time. Um, and that is like the most priceless feeling in the world, because for a long time I thought about, how am I going to make this happen? Is this going to work? Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I kidding myself? Am I
Mm-hmm.
ahead of myself? And now I just get the feedback that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. It's working.
Yeah.
Um, it's happening at the right time. It's all coming together. The results are coming together, not only from the financial perspective, but also from the people's feedback perspective. And it's just a priceless feeling to be facilitating a process for people where they can realize for themselves that they have the power to change and transform their own lives.
Yeah.
That to me is the most gratifying thing. It's like it's not necessarily how much I do and what I do and say and things like that. It's more just like holding the space for people to realize that they have the tools and the power to change their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for me a lot of what coaching is like, just holding that space. And yeah, like I said, the data suggests it's working. I know it's working. The people know it's working. So
Yeah.
it's just the best feeling in the world. Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that this was you finally doing your true calling now? You finally pursuing your true calling.
Yes, without a doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And what would you say with someone who's considering doing coaching or someone who's considering yeah, seeking coaching help, but they're not really quite sure? What would you say to those people who's considering doing coaching to help other people, or considering seeking coaching help, but they're not quite sure because there's a lot of things that they hear out there online or things about coaching? What would you say to those people?
Yeah. So I think that's like a two-part question. The one part is
Mm-hmm.
people who want to become a coach, and the other part
Yeah,
is people who
considering
want.
yeah, doing coaching, yeah, and to help other
Okay.
people, like in your
Yeah.
case, making a difference, yeah. And
Yeah, I
then
think
others, yeah, who's seeking maybe try coaching help, but they've been told a lot of negative things or something. So like a little bit in offense, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think I'll start with the latter part of the question, with people who
Mm,
are thinking about seeking the help of a coach. I just think what what's so beneficial about coaching is
mm-hmm,
that it's just like, coaching for me has the power and the capacity to meet you exactly where you're at, with no
mm,
expectations and no, like, you know coaching has the flexibility to not be operating under models that say like, you should be making this kind of progress, and you should be, like, this is like how we're measuring your progress, and this is
mm,
the model that we're working under. Coaching has the fluidity and the flexibility to meet you exactly where you're at and to work with that. And I think that's like, I think that's what sets it apart from other approaches. And it's sort of more conversational, more relatable, I would say. Often, often with people in therapy and traditional forms of therapy and stuff, there's quite a disconnect between the therapist and the client, because the therapist's operating from like this, like, let's call it an intellectual place type of thing, and it's like that disconnect. Whereas coaching is, for me, a lot more humanly relatable. So if it works from that perspective. So that's a really positive reason why people seeking coaching should consider, like, really consider it, is because coaches are often more relatable, more personable, more conversational.
Awesome.
So I think that's
That's
cool.
true.
And
That's
then,
really true.
and then I think for someone who's considering doing coaching, like, or getting into being a coach, I just think, just like, again, just go with the humanly relatable, personable approach. Just like, just essentially keep your humility, keep your humanity, and realize that what people are looking for is people want to be heard. They just want to be heard from wherever they're at, without judgment. And and that's what opens up coaching, to being able to work with a lot of different people from diverse backgrounds and avenues and stuff, is just like keeping that human centric, human first, person first approach, and realizing that often it's not about how intelligent you can sound, or how, like, whether you can say the right thing at the right time. It's more just about, like, does this person just want to be heard from where they're at, and can I be a conduit of that? Can I be a, and yeah, that's what I would say to somebody getting into coaching, is like, keep that approach first, and you hands down, you will have success, because that's what people are looking for.
Awesome. Yeah, that's true. I totally agree. Yeah. So, yeah, it sounds like, you are exactly where you wanted to be initially. Now you're working as a coach and really helping people, and you have a really a coaching business that's really working well now, and connecting with people who need your help, and you are changing people's lives. So, what's next for you?
That's a great question. What's next for me is probably just more of the same, because it's working. So, what's next for me is probably thinking about things more from like a content point of view. So, like, getting to the point now where I can sort of be a content generator, and somebody who produces content on the topic. So I think it's the process has been up until now to get myself to the point where I'm confident enough to do that. And then I think the next natural step for me is like, okay, producing some valuable content on the topic for potential clients to plug into. I've done that to an extent, but I think now it's more, the next step for me is to become a bit more strategic about that, and then like use that to fuel my business, and essentially fuel the purpose of helping people in recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. And just again, let's just touch again and into what kind of people can really benefit by working with you. Obviously, it's in the recovery sector, but let's just go through again, like, who exactly do you help, and what kind of people can really benefit by working with you? What kind of people can you really help?
Yeah. yeah, for me, I keep it as simple as anyone who wants to recover a sense of themselves or a sense of their lives back because they feel like they've lost it. Like,
Mhm.
and that's anyone on any of the spectrum of personal crises. You know, like, yeah, just anyone who wants to recover that sense because they feel like they've lost it through through the avenue of, like, whether it's a personal crisis or an emotional crisis or a spiritual crisis or a physical recovery crisis or anything on the spectrum of recovery. Somebody who just deep down feels like, I want to get my life back on track.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's that. I'm interested more in whether or not the person is asking themselves that question.
Mhm.
Like, do I want to get my life back on track? Have I lost touch with my sense of self and my sense of my, like, normality in life? And do I want it back? Um, and if the answer is yes, then great. Then we can work together.
Wow, awesome. And where can they find you?
They can find me on my website. They can find me on Facebook. Find me on LinkedIn. Um, yeah, those are the main ones at the moment.
Yeah, and what's your website? Because maybe we're gonna have a
Yeah,
link underneath this video,
sure.
where they can
It's
find and also on LinkedIn, on Facebook, where they can find you. What's your name? Where they can sort
yeah.
of like, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. My website is luminousrecoverycoaching.com. I'll send you the link to put under
Mm-hmm.
the description. And on Facebook, I'm Rich Pierce Coach. And LinkedIn, I'm also Rich Pierce Coach. So I'll send you all of those links. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah. So Rich is Rich, and then what's your surname? How do you
Pierce,
spell? Mm-hmm.
yeah, Pearce.
Okay, awesome. Well, Rich, thanks a lot for taking your time today and talking with us and sharing your journey with coaching. Yeah, and I'm super pleased to see the work that you're doing now, having seen where you started and to see where you are, and actually seeing the impact that you're making with your coaching is it's amazing. Like, and is also what keep me inspired as well in doing coaching myself, seeing the work that you're doing, changing people's life, and really making it different, because that's what coaching is all about, and that's the mission I personally trying to push myself of making this world a better place with coaching. So yeah, it is inspiring and amazing to see this work. So yeah, and so folks who are who need some help in recovery, who feel like they've lost part of their life and they could do with someone, yeah, I highly recommend to connect with you. And we're gonna leave your website link there, which by the way talks directly with how you can help them. So yeah, thanks a lot for having this call with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great to connect.
Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, Fu.